So hey, this video talks about a lot of really heavy, potentially triggering stuff. Stuff like police violence, stuff about violence against children, stuff about domestic abuse, all kinds of really heavy, really triggering stuff. And I don't want you, if that's something that's going to make you have a bad time, I don't want you to feel obligated to watch this video. Your mental health is a million times more important than me getting another view on this video. If you don't feel safe or comfortable watching a video about how terrible the police are, and it gets really dark really fast, this is not a fun topic. Feel free to duck out. But if you're up for it, I guess. Here we go. Hey, yeah. Ron here. This will not be quick. This will not be easy. This is a very difficult topic. But it's important. You're being lied to. You're being lied to by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. But there's only so much time in the day, only so much time I have as a person to elucidate these things to you. So, today we're going to focus on the police and the justice system. We're going to talk about how they're lying about their responsibilities to you, how they're lying about how they treat you, and ultimately the truth about how the police and the justice system use you. Strap yourselves in, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. On June 4th, 1994, a woman named Jessica Lenahan received a permanent restraining order against her then-husband, Simon Gonzalez. The restraining order was supposed to keep Simon from coming within 100 yards of Lenahan or her 4 children. It didn't work. On June 22nd, 1999, Simon kidnapped 3 of Jessica's 4 children in violation of the restraining order. They were later found dead after Simon participated in an unrelated shootout with the police. Here's the thing. Jessica called the police at least 4 times over the course of the evening to inform them that the order of protection had been violated and that 3 of her 4 children had been kidnapped. She even went so far as to drive down to the police station and tell the police there that 3 of her 4 children had been kidnapped in violation of the order of protection. The police chose to do nothing. The death of 3 of Jessica Lenahan's children can be understood to be a result of the inaction of the police, of their refusal to do their job. At least, that's what I like to suppose a rational person might think. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court at the time, and especially Antonin Scalia, seem not to have been rational people. The ruling in Castle Rock v. Gonzalez is a little complicated, but as far as I can tell it amounts to this. Jessica sued the Castle Rock Police Department for damages, but because an order of protection does not have monetary value, Jessica was decided to not be entitled to receive damages. More worryingly, and more to the point of this essay, is the ruling that the police have no obligation to protect any person. Even when the person is under an order of protection, literally even when the police are under orders by law to keep someone safe, it is not the responsibility of the police to keep someone safe, and it should be understood that there is not a guarantee of protection by the police. And this claim that the police are under no obligation to protect any person is not a one-off thing. This case has been used as precedent in a number of other cases. The most egregious case that I know of is back in 2011, in New York. there was a spree killer who was stopped by one of his victims, a man named Joseph Lozito. While Lozito was being assaulted by this knife-wielding maniac, there were two police officers in full uniform not 6 feet away behind a door, specifically there to stop that specific knife-wielding maniac. And they knew the spree killer was there. They had interacted with him before he decided to assault Lozito. And yet, not only did the police choose not to immediately stop this knife-wielding maniac, not only, by the accounts of everyone on the scene, did the police not even attempt to apprehend this known mass killer until after Lozito had disabled him, but by literally every account, including Joseph Lozito's fucking hospital records, the police did not even attempt to render aid to the man who had single-handedly stopped this spree killer and was currently bleeding out from a dozen stab wounds. Another civilian, named Alfred Douglas, was the only person on the train to even attempt to render aid to Lozito. Lozito credits Douglas with saving his life. Cracked, that is, Cracked.com, did an article and later a whole video about it. A video you can watch right now. To make a long story short, it is not the responsibility of the police to protect you. It is not the responsibility of the police to keep the people that you care about safe. You cannot rely on them for these things. I could spin another yarn, but looking at the length of the script, I don't have time. So, let's go the other way around and talk about qualified immunity. There are a lot of legal opinions and esoteric language surrounding qualified immunity as a concept, so I'll try and boil it down about as far as I can. The idea behind qualified immunity is that the police ought not be punished for performing their jobs well. It is that they are qualified for immunity from certain actions that would otherwise be illegal. Some of these immunities make sense. Things like speeding laws or laws against carrying a firearm. Others don't. Things like theft. Things like manslaughter. Things like rape? Yeah, that too. And yeah, all of those things are legal under qualified immunity. Theft? They call that civil forfeiture. John Oliver did an entire segment about that a while back. Manslaughter? Setting aside the fact that death by cop is one of the leading causes of death for black men nationwide, the power of manslaughter has been explicitly expanded into qualified immunity through the court case Kilsey versus Hughes. Kazea versus Hughes. Kazela versus Hughes? One of those. Again, the legalese is a bit complicated, but the short version of what happened is this. The police were called to respond to someone allegedly wielding a knife, and literally gunned down the first person with a knife that they saw, without so much as a warning. It just so happened that the woman they gunned down was in the middle of cooking dinner. She had a knife like this, because she was in the middle of cutting vegetables. And the Supreme Court decided that the officer who did that had a right to do that, under qualified immunity. The ACLU has a write-up about the entire case. You can read that in the description of this video if you're so inclined. The problem of sexual assault and rape with the police is pervasive and well known. Most states straightforwardly allow for the police to have sex with people in their custody, and the officers can claim that the person consented to it later. Huffington Post has a write-up about that you can read in the description as well, if you're so inclined. Now, a rational person might be asking themselves, hey, wait a minute, that sounds pretty bad. Why aren't these things being litigated? Wow, I sure am being wholesome right now. I wish I had a sweater. Well, they are. And historically, that litigation has fallen on the side of the police. Granted, these things are changing. For example, a jury in Texas recently decided that an off-duty police officer cannot, barge into a person's home and murder them in cold blood under literally false pretexts. But that being a victory ought to demonstrate how all-encompassing the authority of the police is here in the States. And that's how they treat citizens. Non-citizens? Immigrants? The police in Mississippi are arguing that a man that they shot in the back of the head had no constitutional protections because he's an illegal immigrant. A position which I feel obligated to state is explicitly unconstitutional. It is not supported by the text of the Constitution. And they might get away with it. The Atlantic sure seems to think they're going to get away with it. There's an article about why that is here, and in the underbar if you want to read that. I want to make a point here. I'm not just ragging on the police for the actions of a few bad actors. This isn't about any individual person. The point I'm trying to make is that not only have police abused their power in the past, not only is this abuse of power pervasive and well known, but when they have abused their power, the institutions that ought to be keeping them in check have typically taken their side. Again, this isn't about individual bad cops. I'm not talking about the actions of individual people, at least not inside of a vacuum. The point I'm trying to make is that the justice system actively supports officers who abuse their power, and by doing so, it subtly encourages those abuses of power. The system that governs the police wants the police to treat you like an enemy. And there's a reason for that. So there's this scene from Wakkos Wish. Does anybody remember Wakkos Wish? The feature-length Animaniacs movie? Some setup. In this movie, everyone from the Animaniacs show lives in a poor medieval town. And Dot, that's Wacko's younger sister, has come down with some mysterious unnamed illness. In the beginning of the film, Wacko goes away for a little while in order to get some money to buy medicine for his sister. And when he comes back...
Now, about your taxes. First, we total your income and calculate your deductions for the year. How many dependents? Include city, county, state, and federal taxes.
The king is a jerk.
Oh, good. That qualifies you for the calling the king a jerk tax. Add property tax, sales tax, excise tax, stamp, tea, and thumb tax, shipping and handling, multiply by your shoe size, and you owe a grand total of... exactly 1 halfpenny.
What?
The tax man comes around and takes the entire comically small amount of money that Wacko had amassed from his efforts. This always stuck with me. And I think it's because of the sheer unfairness of the thing. But being an adult now, being older now than I was, I understand something. That man's a cop. And to be clear, I don't mean that in a, wow, this guy's a piece of shit. All centaurs are bastards. I seem to have found a hair tie, but still no sweater kind of way. I mean that he is specifically doing the work of a police officer. I know that I've talked a lot about how the police do violence, and how the police allow violence to be done to other people, but what I haven't said, and what a lot of people won't say, is that as common as police violence is, it's still proportionately very rare. Most of what the police do, the vast plurality of what the police do, is still handing out parking tickets and levying fines. Again, John Oliver did a pretty good segment about that not too long ago. That is to say, that agents of the government are actively extracting wealth, mostly from the lowest classes in our society. That's taxes. You're not going to convince me that that's not taxes. And it isn't just the cops, either. Our entire justice system is set up to extract wealth from the poorest people in our country in the forms of tickets, fines, and jail sentences. You know that scene from the China episode of South Park? The scene where Randy's in a forced prison camp and sees someone get shot. We have those forced prison camps here in the US. We call them prisons. Hell, we have more people in prison than China does. And it's a well-known fact that every major business in the USA profits off of the mostly unpaid labor of those prisoners. Those prisoners, by the way, who don't always go to prison for committing a crime. There are people who are in prison for having too much debt. And we know that because the Southern Poverty Law Center keeps shutting down debtors' prisons. Debtors' prisons, which I will remind you are literally unconstitutional. And I think that we can understand that to be a form of violence. Again, let's go back to the skit. The tax person doesn't just take all of Wakkos' money. The tax person takes all of Wakkos' money that he had explicitly saved to treat his sister's illness. That happens every day. There are people who have to choose between paying for medicine that they need and paying for a ticket from a busted taillight every day. There are children who need medicine or special care who have parents who are thrown into prison every day. There are people who need specialized medical care who are thrown into a jail cell and denied that specialized care every day. It happens every day. And that's just medicine. There are people who are denied food every day due to the actions of the police. There are people who are denied housing every day due to the actions of the police. There are people who die every day due to the actions of the police. And who do you think profits from this? The government? No. Rich fuckers. That money that has been ripped out of the bodies of the poorest people in our country doesn't go into roads or bridges or schools. It goes into the pockets of the people who are enabling your exploitation. How do you think CEOs or stockbrokers or politicians make their money? Exploitation. They enable systems that strip anything even resembling wealth from the most vulnerable people in our society. And yeah, if you're watching this, that means that they're exploiting you. And at the bottom of it all is the police officer. It isn't just that they are obligated not to have any concern for our well-being. It isn't just that they have the authority to do as much harm to us as they care to do. It is that there is an entire, vast system intended to exploit the working class. And at the bottom of that system, the bedrock of it, is the police officer. They are the foot soldiers of our exploitation. They are our foe. I want to make something clear as long as I'm on this rag. The individual people who are police officers are not the problem. The system that enables them is the problem. The regular police officer that you're going to meet on a day-to-day basis is not the root of the problem. The regular police officer that you're going to meet on a day-to-day basis is trying to perform an incredibly stressful job. A job that requires them to at least play the part of a racist bigot in order to be remotely successful in it. Most of them don't like that. The problem is not the people. The problem is the system that enables the worst people. It is these vast, complicated systems that are the enemies of the system, not the people who work under those systems. Resist the police by all means. I'm not telling you not to do that. Hell, I do that every chance that I get. But maybe don't be the world's biggest asshole while you're doing it. And I'm not just saying that because the police literally have the authority to shoot you in the face for sneering at them too hard. I'm saying that because... I don't know. Maybe being a shitty person, just because you can be a shitty person, is always bad praxis. Even if someone deserves it. Maybe especially when someone deserves it. That was not fun. I do not envy editing Ron. Speaking of whom, let's see how he's doing. Fuck you, filming Ron. Fuck you. Why did you have to film every fucking line 12 fucking times? You know you don't have to do that more than 3 or 4 times. Do you have any idea how much fucking... It took 3 times as long as it should have to put this fucking video together. I mean, it's a long video. It's a long video even without this bit, but... fucking... Oh... I'm so sorry this took so long. Part of it was being out of practice, and part of it was me fumbling around like an ingrate. Biggest part of it was a lot of research went into it. I must have read fucking 50 articles on qualified immunity and different court cases and... And, when you have that much research you have to do, when you're trying to put as many sources in as you can't just write an outline like I normally do. So I had to write a full script, and that extends the process by another day and a half most of the time. And fucking real life has just been kicking my ass. I'm just... Not just me either, but none of the people I know are in a good place right now. But I did work as hard as I could on this. I did the best that I could. And I hope the final product is worth the wait in some capacity. I'll very gently remind you, I still have my Ko-Fi account up. I'm planning on keeping it up indefinitely. If you want to send me some money, that would be nice, but don't feel obligated to send me money because, all of these things, these videos are a labor of love. I'm doing it because it's important to me. Not because fucking... Who's gonna pay me to talk for 20 minutes about how cops are shitty? I lost access to my Curious Cat account, so I'm gonna have to make a new one or something. I don't know. I spend a lot of time nowadays faffing around on Twitter. When I was waiting for the audio to compile on this, the fucking audio, I had to break the video into 45-minute segments, and those fucking 45-minute segments, the audio, when I was tweaking it, took it 2 hours to fully fucking process, for all 3 of them. Fucking filming, Ron. But yeah, if I'm at my computer, then I'm probably faffing around on Twitter. If you want to faff around with me, that would be fine. I'm a big fan of hijinks. I've been on a kick recently where I talk about how Big Joel is the universe's most notorious internet criminal and details some of his crimes. Like, I've been saying recently that I think the last thing I said about him was that, Big Joel killed Tupac. Which, I don't know why that's... I have this image in my head of, like, Tupac getting shot, and the last thing he sees is Big Joel, like, going like this with a gun in one hand. And then when you ask Big Joel about it, he says, believe it or not, I had a very relatable and understandable reason for killing Tupac Shakur. He got in my way. And it's fucking hilarious, and I don't know why. But I'm rambling again. Oh, what's the next video going to be? I'm thinking about dropping the video about individuality and lies because I was trying to write that essay a couple days ago and I was really having to stretch it. So, if I can figure out something for the video about individuality, then it'll be that. And if I can't, it will be the fucking, oh god, the neoliberalism essay. Oh, I don't wanna. Oh, that's gonna be complex and contentious and fucking... I'm so tired I can't open my eyes. Alright. Well, I'm gonna take a nap. All of you take care of yourselves, alright? I mean that. Take care of yourselves.